A career in computer games. It was just a card like all the others in the window of his local newsagent, but right from the start, Kevin knew the job had to be for him. He was 16 years old and just out of school, and there were two things about him that were absolutely true. He had no experience and no qualifications. Kevin loved games. His pocket computer had gone to school with him every day of the last year, even though it was against school rules, and when it was finally confiscated by a weary teacher in the middle of a geography lesson, just as he'd been about to find the last gold star in Moon Quest, he'd gone straight out and bought another one, this time with a colored screen, and had spent the rest of the term playing with that. Every day when he got home, he threw his bag into the corner, ignoring his homework, either booted up his dad's laptop for a game of Brain Dead or Blade of Evil, or plugged in his own for a quick session Roadkill 2. His bedroom was piled high with computing magazines and posters. It would also be true to say that he had never actually met most of his best friends. He had simply exchanged messages with them on the internet, mainly hints for games, the secret codes, and shortcuts. That wasn't the end of it. On Saturdays, Kevin would take the bus into London and lose himself in the arcades. There was one, right in the heart of Piccadilly, that was 4 floors high and absolutely crammed with all the latest equipment. Kevin would go up the escalator with his pockets bulging with £1 coins. To him, there was no sound in the world sweeter than a brand new coin rolling into a slot. By the end of the day, he would stagger home with empty pockets, an empty head, and a dazed smile on his face. The result of all this was that Kevin had finally left school with no knowledge of anything at all. He had failed all his exams, the ones that he'd even bothered to show up for, that is. University was obviously out of the question. He couldn't even have spelled it. And as he was already discovering, job opportunities for people as ignorant as him were few and far between. And that was how, 3 days later, he found himself outside an office in Rupert Street, in the middle of Soho. He had come to meet a Mrs. Toe. Now, though, he wasn't so sure. The address that she had given him belonged to a narrow, red-bricked building squeezed in between a cake shop and a tobacconist. It was so narrow, in fact, that he'd walked past it twice before he found where it was. It was also very old, with dusty windows and the sort of front door you'd expect to find on a dungeon. There was a small brass plaque beside this. Kevin had to lean down to read it. Galactic Games Ltd. It wasn't a good start. In all the magazines he'd read, Kevin had never heard of anyone called Galactic Games, and now that he thought of it, what sort of computer games company would be advertising in the window of a newsagent in Camden Town? What sort of computer company would have a crummy office like this? He almost decided to go. He'd actually turned round and walked away before he changed his mind. Now that he was here, he might as well go in. He rang the bell. Yes. The voice at the other end of the intercom was high-pitched, a bit sing-song. My name's Kevin Graham, he said. I've come about the job. Oh, yes, please come straight up, the first floor. The door buzzed and he pushed it open and went in. Please, this way. Kevin found himself in a small office with a single desk bare, before a single phone with a single chair behind it. There was nothing else in the room. The walls, recently painted white, didn't have one picture on them, not even a calendar. Mr. Go will see you now, she said. Please come in, Mr. Go said. Seeing Kevin at the door, he smiled, revealing a row of teeth with more silver than white. Sit down, he gestured at the chair, and Kevin took it, feeling more suspicious by the minute. There was definitely something odd here, something not quite right. Mr. Go reached into his desk and took out a square of paper, some sort of form. Kevin's reading wasn't up to much, and anyway, the paper was upside down, but as far as he could tell, the form wasn't written in English. The words were made up of pictures rather than letters, and seemed to go down rather than across the page. It had to be Japanese, he supposed. "What is your name?" Mr. Go asked him. "Kevin Graham." "Age?" 16. "Address?" Kevin gave it. "You've left school?" "Yeah, a couple months ago." "And tell me, please, did you get good GCSEs?" "No." Kevin was angry now. "Your ad said no qualifications needed. That's what it said, so why are you wasting my time asking me?" Mr. Go looked up sharply. It was impossible to tell with the dark glasses covering his eyes, but he seemed to be pleased. "You're quite right," he said. "Quite right. Yes, qualifications are not required, not at all. But can you supply references?" "What do you mean?" Kevin was lounging in his chair. He had decided he didn't care if he got the job or not, and he didn't want this ridiculous yap to think he did. "References from your teachers, or your parents, or former employers, to tell me what sort of person you are." "I've never had an employer," Kevin said. "My teachers would just give me a load of rubbish, and my parents can't be bothered. Shove the references. Who needs them anyway?" Even as he spoke the words, he knew that the interview was probably over, but there was something about the empty room and the small, doll-like man that unnerved him. He wanted to go. To his surprise, Mr. Go smiled again and nodded his head vigorously. "Absolutely," he agreed. "The references can indeed be shoved, although you have only been in my office for a matter of some 29.5 seconds. I can already see your character for myself, and my dear Kevin, I may call you Kevin, I can see that is exactly the sort of character we require. Exactly." "What is this place?" Kevin demanded. "Galactic Games," Mr. Go replied. "The finest games inventors in the universe. Certainly the most advanced this side of the Milky Way. We've won many, many awards for Smash Crash Slash 500. In our new advanced version, we call it Smash Crash Slash 500 Plus. It's going to be even better." "Smash Crash Slash?" Kevin wrinkled his nose. "I've never heard of it. It hasn't been marketed yet. Not in this area. But we want you to work on this game, and if you're game, the job's yours." "How much do you pay?" Kevin demanded. $2,000 a week plus car insurance, health care plus funeral package." "Funeral package?" "It's just an extra we throw in. Not of course that you'll need it." Mr. Go took out a golden pen and scribbled a few notes on the piece of paper, then span it round so that it faced Kevin. "Sign here," he said. Kevin took the pen. It was curiously heavy, but for a moment he hesitated. $2,000 a week," he replied. "Yes." "What sort of car?" "Any car you want." "But you haven't told me what I have to do. You haven't told me anything about the job." Mr. Go sighed. "All right," he said. Right. Never mind. We'll find someone else." "Wait a minute. If you're not interested—" "I am interested." Kevin had caught the smell of money. £2,000 a week in a car. What did it matter if Mr. Go seemed to be completely mad, and if you've never heard of either the company or the game? What was it called? Bash, Smash, Dash? He quickly searched for a clear space on the sheet of paper and scribbled his name. "Well, that's it," he said. "Welcome to Smash Crash Slash 500 Plus." "When do I start?" Kevin asked. "You already have." Mr. Go stood up. "We'll be in touch with you very soon," he said. He gestured. "Please, show yourself out." He left the room the way he had come.